All
right. Well, real quickly, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Josie Ross-MacLeod. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am a Lightyear Leadership coach. I don't know if you've heard of Lightyear Leadership. It's a wonderful organization founded by Suzanne Conrad, who has been one of my teachers for the past 12 or 15 years now. And some of that work has really helped me as I navigate being the parent of a trans masculine poly child, adult, not child, 23-year-old now. And all about intergenerational learning, which is why partnering with Lucca is just such a joy to me. And let's see, what else do I want to say about myself real quick? I have another daughter who is special needs, who lives with us, named Eleanor, and my husband Bradford and I, and we live in the Pacific Northwest. And I'm just excited to have the conversations we're going to have to continue to learn from each other and to share any perspective I have that might be helpful. My first connection with the fabulous Mr. Lucca Petrucci was in 2020. I was listening to a podcast that it's called Living in Your Passion Place. And the aforementioned Suzanne Conrad, one of my teachers, was a guest on Lucca's podcast, and I was listening to it. And then I was just so charmed and enchanted. I started to listen to all the episodes. That summer, I set a big goal for myself, which was to run a half marathon. And while I was doing that, I'm not a runner, but I was learning to be a runner. While I was doing that, I thought, I want to surround myself with these stories of amazing people living in their passion place and explaining, how they figured out what that was. And this wonderful interviewer who was just asking insightful questions and coaxing conversations. So I got Lucca Petrucci in my ear for 13.1 miles that hot August day. And since then, I've just been so pleased as punch to get to know him in deeper ways and to have these conversations and share. So I'm sure I'm over my time. Lucca, take it away.
Josie, you're perfect. Yeah, it's been such a joy to get to know you, Josie. I know some of you are familiar with Josie, and some of you, this is the first time you're meeting her. But just welcome to this space. Of this workshop is titled Building a Bridge of Love, Be an Actionable Ally to the LGBTQIA plus community. And Josie has totally showed up as an ally in my life. Josie is one of the most loving, accepting, inclusive humans that I've ever met. And we've built most of our friendship virtually. We've known each other for 3 years. I live in Southern California in Santa Monica, and Josie near Portland, right? Yeah, near Portland. So we met in person one time last year, and it's just been just so beautiful building a relationship. And almost every conversation that we have, we talk about allyship. And on this next slide right here, last year, Josie and I had a conversation on my podcast. It's now called Free to Be, and the title was Coming Out as Queer to Your Heterosexual Parent. My pronouns are he, him, his. I show up as, a cis gay man, and Josie shows up like as a straight cis white woman with a queer child. So it's been such a cool relationship. Josie has held space for me to sort of do a take two. I know when I came out 8 years ago, the way that I came out was not at all how I anticipated or wanted. An ex-boyfriend of mine actually outed me to my mom. So it was pretty wild, pretty wild. And we've done a lot of healing through that. My mom's actually on the call here. There she is. And in this conversation, I know some of you have listened to it. If not, please listen to it. Josie held space for me to do a take 2 of my coming out story with my mom. So it was just so healing to say the things that I really wanted to say as a 22-year-old when I was 30, and to give myself back that experience. And after we had this conversation, I was like, girl, we need to host something. Like, I don't know what, but we need to host it. And that's how we're here. So before we jump into, I'm going to stop my share for a second. Before we jump into our allyship stories, I want to share some guidelines to ground us all and set the space. So if I look down to, I have some notes. So the first, I said earlier, I want each of you to look at this more as a conversation, less as a presentation or speech. You're going to learn from us, but we're also going to learn from you. We don't know everything about allyship. Josie has one human experience. I have another human experience, and there's 22 others on this line and about 10 watching the recording in the future. So please share. If something's on your heart, if you're getting sweaty palms or your heart's racing and you're like, I want to share something, please share it. The second guideline is know that you're fully welcome as you are. Everything that's shared in this space, please let's keep it in this space. I know a lot of the things we may talk about today may be out of your comfort zone. There may be terms and language that you don't know, and that's why you're here. Each of you have some curiosity about wanting to be an ally or wanting to be a better ally. So just know that you're so welcome. And this is just going to be a loving space to get curious and a little uncomfortable, because what I'm learning in my life is how we grow to our highest potential, how we grow to be more open-hearted, more compassionate, more full of possibility, is to get a little uncomfortable, step out of that comfort zone into the space to grow. So that's what we're going to be doing together. And the third is, we understand this conversation may be uncomfortable because it's new. Like I said before, you're enough as you are right now. If any questions pop up, share them in the chat. Ask us. And then lastly, know that there are one or more golden nuggets just waiting for you in this conversation to best support you today. Whether you identify part of the LGBTQIA plus community, whether you're an ally, whether you don't know right now, whether you have a family member that's part of it, or a friend or a coworker, or 1 out of 6 humans part of Gen Z today identify as LGBTQIA plus. And I think that's always been the case, but people now feel more comfortable and safe to share it. And I really believe the number's higher. So I bet there's people in your life that are still in the closet. So how you show up is so important, the language that you use. I'm just going to make sure that no one's in the waiting room. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share some photos, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my allyship journey. Then I'm going to pass it to Josie. She's going to talk about her allyship journey. And then we're going to do an interactive activity. And next, we're going to share 5 ways that not 5 ways, it's really 5 steps to be in action as an ally. I wrote the 5 steps on these little 5 flashcards. We're going to tell you all about that. And then we're going to continue with some conversations. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm really multitasking with Canva up, sharing things, recording, looking at y'all. And I am ready now. Okay, let's do. Thanks for your patience. Share my screen. Ooh. Okay, can you see photos of little Lucca? Yes. Okay. So growing up, I grew up in a town called Madera, a small farm town in Central Valley of California. And this is me at like age 4 and 5. From a very young age, I felt different. And I didn't know what it was, but just something in me. I tried so hard to relate to other boys, and it was so hard to connect. It was so hard to connect. And as I continued to grow up in middle school, in high school, I have some more photos right here. I learned that the person that the version of myself that is accepted and loved is a straight masculine man. On the left right here is when I played baseball in high school, and I so clearly remember it was my junior year of high school, and I was on the baseball field with a teammate who was just always the star athlete. He was always the head of the cool crowd. And I played baseball for 15 years, and he was always the one that was the first pick. Everybody wanted to hang around with him. And I remember so clearly, he was like, Lucca, can I ask you something? We were taking a break from getting ground balls at shortstop. And he said, I want to tell you something. For the longest time, I thought you were gay. Now that I know you aren't gay, you're really, really cool.
I'm going to interrupt real quick, Lucca. We're not seeing the slides.
Ooh. Okay. You know what? I'm just going to leave it like let me share. Thank you, Josie, for telling me that.
Lucca, we could see the first picture, but not then the baseball picture, if that helps.
I love technology. Leaving you on a cliffhanger.
There you go.
Can you see this now? Do you see two photos?
No, we did when you first brought it up, but now it's just a blank screen.
Okay, we're going to do this.
So we can see the group shot now. It's almost like when you go into presentation mode.
Okay. You know what? Can you see this?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just going to do it this way.
Okay.
And
Good job.
Megan gets a gold star for being logistics manager. Unsolicited, and so grateful for your you jumping in and helping us.
Yes, thank you so much. So going back to that moment, I just remember being 15 years old on the baseball field and being like, wow, all I've been striving to do as a high schooler is fit in, is belong, is be part of the cool crowd. Because at that moment, I thought that was the goal, acceptance from a group. So in this moment, I just remember pushing my authenticity down so deep, my differences down so deep, and I made a commitment to be the best actor starring in the role of a masculine man. I've chatted recently with a lot of friends that knew me in high school, and many of them said, I had no idea at all that you were gay. I really played the role. I dated a girl. I hid behind perfectionism. I was involved in all the things, got straight A's. And it wasn't until my junior year of college, I went to Fresno State, and life was happening so freaking fast. And I just took a pause and I said, you know what? I don't know what I want to do with the rest of my life. What I do know is that I need a little pause from taking class year after year after year. And I chose to intern at Disneyland. And Disneyland's about 4 hours away from Fresno, where I was living at the time. And while I was interning at Disneyland, this was the very first time in my life that I saw true representation. I saw a picture in front of me of how I felt inside for 22 years. And I finally felt safe enough to express who I am because I saw other people living as their true self and they were fully accepted and it was normal and it was okay and it was embraced. And I remember on March 12th, 2015, I finally had the courage because of representation to come out to my mom who's on this call right here and even my mom being my best friend and we were so freaking close. For 22 years I did not tell her this at all. So it's pretty amazing the closets that you can hide in even from the people that are closest to you, right? Because I really believe that each of us hides in some type of closet, so that's what my commitment is to this work, is helping queer youth and queer humans step out of that. And there's two people that were such allies to me. I will never forget that day, March 12th, 2015. And at that moment, my mom could not be the support that I needed. My mom supported me in so many freaking ways as a single parent. My mom did the best that she could with the possibilities and resources and representation that she saw. And on the left right here, can you all see these two photos? This is my friend Angelica. She was the first friend that I told I was gay, and she loved me first and asked questions later. We were planning on going to a party that night, and she was like, you know what? Let's go celebrate your queerness and shake our asses and have some fun. And she just embraced me. I remember hugging her for probably 5 minutes straight. And on the left is a friend of mine who has passed. His name's TJ Hobson, and he was the first friend that I told I was gay. And being a gay man, there's just human experiences that overlapped. And I remember the moment that my mom, actually, no, it was the moment, and I'm not going to go so much into this, but the moment that my ex-boyfriend showed up at my apartment in Anaheim, had drove 4 hours and said, if you don't get back with me, I am going to out you to your mom and to your whole family. I was so freaked out. I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, I am not ready for this. And he ended up leaving, my ex-boyfriend, but I called TJ right after that. And we probably talked for an hour straight, and just how he supported me was incredibly. He showed up as an ally, being part of the queer community to myself. And yeah, I just don't know where I would be today if it wasn't for these two people just loving me and embracing me and not asking me questions when I was in such a vulnerable state. And that's why I'm so passionate about this work. I want to support people in being the best allies to the queer humans in your life. I know a lot of you are raising humans, and I just hope that what we teach you today helps you, first off, be the best ally to yourself and then to your community. So I'm going to pass it to you, Josie, to share about your allyship journey.
Awesome. Thank you, Lucca. That's a beautiful share, and I appreciate you, just being vulnerable and sharing all that. I really appreciate that. So I was born a female assigned at birth, right? Like I identify as a straight woman. I have, and this picture here is of my family. So I have a wonderful husband, Bradford, and we had 2 great kids. We still have them. We still have 2 great kids. And I did what I think a lot of parents do, which is assume your kids are going to be like you. So years ago, I identified that I had 2 daughters. And I assumed that they would be straight.
Sell chest lotions, global teenage boys.
Well, who would be a better spokesperson than me?
Not sure if we can mute someone there. Accidentally on mute. Lucca, do you know how to do that? Good. Thank you. Anyhow, let me get back to that. So, I was raised Catholic for 12 years. I went to Catholic school. I was raised in a Catholic family in a small town. I had very little diversity in my upbringing. So I think I did a lot of things on autopilot, quite frankly. So as an adult, I sort of made some different choices, and I diversified my environment, and I learned about all sorts of cultures and religions and things that weren't necessarily what my parents brought me up in, including the UU, Unitarian Universalist Church, which is where it's a very welcoming community. And that is probably where I had the most profound change, which is one of their tenets, or it's not, I guess it's a tenet. I can't think of the word right now, but it's the inherent worth and dignity of every living thing and every living person, right? And so that is something that guides me. So my allyship story is really homegrown. My oldest child identified first as queer, then it evolved into non-binary, then it evolves into trans-masculine. It will continue to evolve because they're a person who's growing and evolving. And through all of those conversations, respecting and understanding their inherent worth and dignity, no matter what new awareness they had, no matter what new level of learning or comfort they had in themselves, was really my one true thing. So that picture there of my family reminds me not to get caught up in cultural assumptions, what other people think, what's going on in the community. What's really important to me, my litmus test is, am I loving and caring for these people and respecting them and helping them have their best possible life? So that's my allyship why. It's personal, quite frankly. It's personal, it's important, and I have not gotten it right. I've learned, and I've been given grace by friends and family to learn things. And so why I want to have this conversation with Lucca and with, hearing from him and his experience and sharing my experience is to know that there is no one right way. The desire to want to learn about being an ally is being an actionable ally, right? So, so that's a little bit of my story there and why it's important work to me. And I'll continue to learn and grow.
Josie, I have so much love for you, and just thank you for always showing up. Yeah, as yourself, you just make me smile so big.
Thank you.
And Dr. Chapman, hello. Mia, I see a few more joining. Chris and Lydia and Jenna. Oh, how beautiful. Okay, so what we're going to do now is a little activity for the next 5 minutes. So everyone grab a blank paper or your journal and a pen. I'm taking off my glasses because they're all fogged up. Oh my goodness. And I'm starting to sweat. That means great things are happening. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to sort of two umbrella questions. I'll ask a lot of questions under each umbrella. So the first, on a blank piece of paper, what does it feel like when you belong? I want you to write that down. Like, how does it feel like, think about a space in your life that you belong. Is it with your family, friends, chosen family, a community group, at home? How does it feel to belong? And as you're writing that down, I'm going to ask about 4 different questions. Same goal in mind, but these may be might spark a different feeling. The second is, what does true acceptance feel like? If you feel fully accepted by your partner, by a friend, by a family member, like, how does that feel like when somebody sees you and accepts you? When do you feel most accepted? Is it in your home with a certain group of people? Are you doing a certain something? And if you haven't found that space yet, let's imagine, how do you imagine acceptance feels? How do you want acceptance to feel? And now, as we're wrapping that up, I'll have you go to another page. And if you have only one page, turn it around, or another page in your journal. And it's, oh my gosh, I don't know if this is just me, but I so clearly remember the first and last names of the people who bullied me, or a teacher who said something mean. Like, does anybody else just remember that, the moments in their life when you've been rejected or outcasted or hurt, or like, it's so wild. I'm like, I don't remember like some of my friends' last names, but I remember this person from 4th grade. So the second page, or on the second page, I want you to write down, how does it feel when you don't belong? When you've walked into a room and you've just felt like you don't belong, when someone said something aloud to your face, like, how does that feel? How does it feel when you've been rejected? Whether that's from a person, a group, a job, an internship. Like, how does it feel? Just recall the last time that you've been rejected. Maybe you shared an idea at a meeting and someone shut you up. Or maybe you showed up with your unique human experience and you got a certain look. Like, how does it feel when you're rejected? I'll have you wrap up what you're writing. And reason why we wanted to talk about this and ask each of you these questions before we dived into our allyship framework is belonging is at the basis of allyship. All humans have two innate desires. The first is to belong to themselves, to be authentic. And the second is to belong in community, to be in communion with others. And in my human experience, I pushed down the first desire because I wanted so much to belong to others. I wanted to be part of that cool crowd. And then I'm like, what about this right here? What about belonging to myself? And there are so many LGBTQIA plus youth who feel rejected, who feel outcasted. I want a few of you to say aloud, like, how does it feel when you are rejected, when you're outcast, when you don't belong? Just please come off mute and in popcorn style, just share that feeling, please.
Makes me question my self-worth.
Mm,
I said uneasy and not good in your own skin.
yeah. Just
No, it makes me feel small, dims my light.
Makes me just want to be quiet and just learn to see how I should be, like what will work and what should I try to do or change.
I wrote,
Oh, go ahead.
I wrote that it causes a fight or flight reaction, like my heart racing. It might put a lump in my throat. It's definitely feels uncomfortable and unsafe.
I put it feels hurtful, especially like when others feel threatened. And so that's when you start to feel that hurt because they're threatened by you.
I put something that I was surprised by. I found it overstimulating in that I have to pay attention to what everybody is thinking and doing and saying, and it just overwhelms the brain because instead of being at ease with who I am or what I say, it's like, what is this person thinking? What's happening over here? What's happening over there? And that's mentally exhausting.
When just imagine some of these, exactly what you said, Brad, or feeling small or not, like keeping quiet. Just imagine being in this state hour after hour, after day, after week, after month, after 22 years. You know what I mean? I'm relating so much to so many of these things. I don't understand your specific human experience, but like, just think about one teenager or high schooler in your life today. Would you want them to experience this every day? You know, like this is why allyship is so important, because so many youth and young adults, and I know also adults, feel like they can't show up as themselves, and it leads to this. And this is, I share this because this is the truth. Why is allyship vital? Suicide is the second leading cause of death among young people 10 to 24. And lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, intersex, and asexual youth are at significantly increased risk. More than 1.8 million LGBTQIA plus youth, 13 through 24, seriously consider suicide each year in the US, and at least one attempts suicide every 45 seconds. And this right here, if this is all you remember, this is success in my book. Acceptance from at least one adult can decrease the risk of LGBTQIA plus youth attempting suicide by 40%. Your affirmation and your love has the power to save lives. You choosing to show up today with your busy life, with moving parts, and choosing to learn how to be an actionable ally is going to save so many freaking lives, because it's just one. If you just show up in love and ask questions later to one person, it decreases the risk of suicide by 40%. And that's why Josie and I called this workshop Building a Bridge of Love. Because Nicolette, your community is different than mine. Natasha, yours is different than mine. Joe, your impact, your reach is different than mine. I mean, we have some people here, all the way from Florida. Chris, your impact is different than mine. So Josie and I just pictured, what if all these humans that choose to be an ally come together and just start to build this bridge of love in Fresno, in LA, in other states? Like, what ripple effect could that create? Some of these feelings of rejection and hurt that I felt and some of us felt, what if our future youth and youth today don't have to experience as much of that? So that's what we're diving into. And before I pass it to Josie, where she's going to start to share the 5 steps, we created some really simple curriculum that you could write on flashcards, that you could put in your car, put in your office to help you be an actionable ally. I just wanted to share 2 things. So when we talk about allyship, like Josie said, we aren't creating this this is the cookie cutter way to be an ally. There's so many unique ways to be an ally, but 4 characteristics of an ally. First, you're open and willing to learn. You don't have to know it all. Just be ready to learn, like exactly what Josie said. Her child is continuing to evolve, and we all are. Whether we speak it aloud or not, we're changing. The second is your openness to work through barriers. Growing is uncomfortable. That's why, as we physically grew, growing pains are uncomfortable. You know what I mean? To grow our mindset, especially if we've had a belief system and bias for 20 years, 22 years. I had so much internalized homophobia in me. Even when I came out and said I'm gay, I think it took me 2 years after I came out to say I'm a gay man, because I had so much homophobia in here. So working through the barriers, there are many reasons we don't choose to be an ally when we can. Let's figure out yours so we can work through it. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. The third thing, to be in committed action. And sometimes committed action is speaking aloud. Sometimes it's listening. Sometimes it's observing. And lastly, choose compassion. I define compassion as love in action. So those are the 4 characteristics of an ally: someone who is open and willing to learn, who is open to working through the barriers, the uncomfortability, those that are in committed action, and those who are open to choosing compassion. So Josie, right before I pass it to you, I would love to hear from a couple people about something that's just hitting home with you thus far. whether it's something I said, something Josie said, something that you realized through our first 45 minutes of this conversation. I'd love to hear from one or two people, or it's what you wrote down on how does it feel to belong? Dr. Chapman, yes, with the
Hey,
most
Lucca.
amazing background.
Thank you. I wish it were my library living room. Alas, it's fake. Thank you so much. I was taking lots of notes, but your emphasis on we're always changing and growing really struck me. It resonated with a book that we published at Fresno State with the press by psychology professor Bob Levine. Unfortunately, he passed away. But this book's called Stranger in the Mirror, and you guys have got to read it. Stranger in the Mirror. I have a ton of copies of this book. They're in my funky closet we have in our dean's office and in other spaces as well. Why did I print 5,000 copies of this book? Because the message is absolutely fabulous. It's about the fact our cells are completely changing. We literally are different human beings, and that is why in time we start changing in the way we look, because you are shedding all your old cells. This kind of growth and change is normal, natural, necessary. It's what it means to be human. And the way that Dr. Levine writes it is so applicable to this social, psychological, emotional situation. It's absolutely necessary to embrace change. And that's the hardest thing for parents. I'm a parent. Just being willing to say, it's okay if you have that funny hairstyle or anything that seems out of the ordinary, because we are all in the process of change. It's natural, and it's not only natural, it's a biological fact. And so I think this book would open a lot of people's eyes. And thank you for letting me blabber on about a book. I so respected him. He left us too soon, but he left us his last book, which is pure genius and very funny, you guys. It's really well written. Stranger in the Mirror.
Stranger in the Mirror. Dr. Chapman, thank you so much. Following this call, when I send out the recording, Josie and I are going to send out a resource document. So I'll definitely include that in there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I love what you just said about parents being open to change. I know my mom and I have had a lot of conversations.
Fixed creatures.
Like, there were so many instances where my mom would speak her dream aloud about my life.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that, I just can't wait for grandkids, or, I can't wait to meet your wife, or, different things. And it just gets embedded. And then it becomes a belief. And then I thought I didn't have a choice to choose. I was like, dang, my mom's done so much for me for so many years. Like, the least that I can do is help her fulfill her dream that's about my life. And what I've learned is that that's normal. That's okay. I mean, so many people do that. And like, it's okay that my mom and I have different beliefs.
Right.
She's a unique human. I'm a unique human. I don't know what it's like to show up as a straight woman who was in not an abusive relationship for over 15 years and had to be a single mom to me and just gave me everything. I don't know that human experience. And my mom will never understand what it's like to be a closeted gay queer kid growing up, going to Catholic school, in a very conservative area. And just that loving boundary and me learning to accept my mom as she's married again, and created her new life. And as I'm creating my new life, and Josie will talk about a principle, I am, you are, setting loving boundaries and letting both human experiences coexist. Yeah. Anybody else? Oh, my friend Jenna, who's actually in Tokyo right now. Jenna, what do you have to share?
Hi, you guys. Sorry, I'm off camera. Lucca, this is amazing. I really just loved kind of what y'all both said about changing and evolving, but also kind of this duality in the fact that with allyship, the work is never done, but also just showing up is like the best thing you can do. Like just starting to show up and say, like, I'm here for you and I support you. And my allyship may not be where it needs to be at this moment, but like I'll continue to do my best to support you and like grow with you. And I think that's like really amazing. Like knowing that, you know, whether you're an ally for anybody, like that work is never done. There's always more to learn and grow, but doing step one and showing up is like the most impactful. And I think that's really amazing and inspiring.
Jenna, thank you. Thanks for showing up.
Thanks, y'all. This is wonderful.
What time is it in Tokyo right now? What day is it?
I'm actually in Seoul, Korea. It's 8:50, so it's actually in the morning on Wednesday. It's Wednesday. I'm in the future.
Yes, we're still going to be alive in the future.
Yes, it's looking good, you guys. It's looking good.
Oh my gosh, I love you, my friend. All
Love
right.
you. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. All right,
That's
Josie,
awesome.
I am going to pass it to you.
Okay. Let's see. So now we're going to get into like the action stuff, right? Like we said, we wanted folks to walk away with tools, simple tools, ways to think about being an ally, and to learn about them. So we hope, we plan, we intend, we will make it happen that after we walk through these and give some examples, we actually want to walk people through the steps, because there's something in the shared learning and sharing individual perspectives that there's people here that have keys sort of to unlock other people and they don't even know it yet, right? Because when we share our experiences and we share vulnerably what we've learned and where we're going, and other people can learn from that. And so that's something coming up once we go through the 5 steps. So we got 5 action steps. I do want to give some credit to Suzanne Conrad. A lot of the tools that we're talking about are based on her work and work that she created. And it's really important for me to honor and respect that her work has impacted my life, impacted Lucca's life. There's a lot of folks on here. And so the community that she's created sharing around this information, I just want to give honor and respect to that, because it's been so powerful for me. And I don't want to take credit. It's not my work. I'm just sharing it because I found them helpful, these tools. All right. So step 1 is awareness and release. So there's a principle called the line of choice that we talk about. And this is an awareness of when we're being mindful in choice and when we are in reaction, or sometimes I call it autopilot, or we just make an assumption. And the 5 main causes of reaction are worry, fear, doubt, judgment, and unforgiveness, right? So I don't know if anybody else on the call has ever experienced any of those things or not, but I certainly have. And we always will, right? Like there will always be, in a dynamic world, experiences that cause us to feel worried or doubtful, or to get into judgment, or to hold a grudge against someone. Lucca's slide here has some really great other examples of what it means to be in reaction here. So when there's a sense of scarcity, when we're tolerating something, but we're not really in choice about it. We're like going along with the flow because it's easy and it's the path of least resistance. And the voice in our head that says, I can't, I won't, or it's my way, it's the only way, I'm not open to somebody else's idea. Like those are reactions that come up and that we can feel them in our bodies a lot of times. Like I will get sweaty or tense. I get this little furrowed thing here. Nobody else has that, right? Just aging. But yeah, so there are physical sensations that have helped me become aware when I'm reacting to something instead of being clear and making an authentic choice about whatever is going on, whether it's something really small or something as big. And what I thought was potentially life altering was, my child coming out to me. Like my child came out to me. It really wasn't big. It was big in a lot of senses in terms of like, I'm proud of them, their bravery, that kind of big. But honestly, it's really very simple. It's just a truth about who they are as a person. There was really no need to be in reaction or to doubt or worry with that kind of disclosure. Do we want to move on to the next slide there, Lucca? So one of the things we can do, I want to give some clarity and language around what it feels like or what some of the words are about when we are in choice. It's when we're making decisions from a place of love or empathy, when we're making choices and actions based on acceptance and forgiveness, when we're coming from a place of love and joy instead of fear and doubt. And in myself, and I think in a lot of people, you can kind of feel the difference, the lightness of it. And above the line, below the line, not good, bad, it just is, right? We're always in a state of stimulus and response. And it's a matter of, am I aware of my response? Am I making choices about the information that I'm receiving? Or am I just on autopilot with beliefs that I've been taught or situations that are familiar, so it's easy to respond a certain way? Am I responding a certain way because the entire room is responding that way? But is that really my choice? Would I choose to do that? So learning how you feel when you're in reaction, or even just using these words to help identify the difference between being in reaction and being an authentic choice, is really step one. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say everybody here has been in reaction, and everybody here has an opportunity to pay attention to what that's like and to say, okay, how could I be in choice about that? Anything you want to add on that, Lucca, or does that feel kind of complete on step one, just the awareness in our bodies and in our behaviors?
Thanks for clarifying all that, Josie. There's one thing that I want to share. So I want everyone right now to think about the LGBTQIA plus community. As I was thinking about the community, and the first step to be an actionable ally is awareness and release of the reaction, I'm specifically thinking about the trans community. And I was in reaction about the trans community for a lot of years. I was fearful of them. I was judging trans humans because I didn't know about them. So that's just breaking down step one. It's, think about whether it's like, I remember when, like a year ago, my mom and I were on a walk and she was sharing, and Mom, if there's something that I missed, let me know. And I did ask my mom permission to share this. She just said, you know what, for so many years, I was in fear, which fear, oh, did I not even include it? It is below the line. I didn't write it here, but fear is there. She was like, I was in so much fear of what others would do to you, of how others would hurt you and wouldn't accept you for showing up as gay. And I was like, okay, I said, I get that. I don't understand what it's like to be a parent with this only child. And I was like, Mom, but I would have more fear towards what I would do to myself.
Right. Right. Lucca, can I interject here?
Yeah.
It's the perfect setup to sort of step 2, which is identify that incorrect belief or bias, right? And so that's just a really beautiful example. Your mom's worried. I did the exact same thing. It's so hard for the queer community. Life's going to be so hard. People are going to judge. And I had this story in my head, an incorrect belief, a bias that I had been exposed to in this world. And it was like a virus. Like I was continuing that belief and sharing that with my child, when the reality is yes, there are safety concerns in the world for all people. But I was perpetuating this fear of safety. Of course, I still worry about everybody's personal safety, right? Like we want people to be safe, and it's a human right. And when I realized that I was continuing to perpetuate this idea that when you're out and loud and proud, you are at risk, what I was diminishing was when you are not authentically yourself, when you are burying your feelings, when you feel you have to fit in, there's a propensity for depression, suicidal, all of these things, that the pain of staying in that state of denial far outweighs the damage and the risk of, even statistically, of harm in the community. And I do just want to be mindful and aware that, of course, there are true risks out there, elevated risks for certain groups. And I don't want to dismiss that. I want to be clear that that's not what I'm saying, but the belief that should keep someone from being their authentic self is the one that I want to identify and say, like, that actually is incorrect and wrong, because the pain of staying inauthentic for my child was far worse than anything they've experienced being true to themselves. They have like amazing community, like such a blessed, wonderful community. And so it was wrong. It was an irrational fear. So step 2 is identifying what's that belief that's playing in your head, or what is that unconscious bias that you have that is kind of putting you into that reaction mode, right? So once you can put some language to it and identify, like, oh, that's a story I heard and I'm repeating it, but it's not really true. You can work on making a new choice and releasing it.
Yeah. And Josie, I'm going to pass it right to you, but like the past belief and bias that I had that kept me in judgment and fear of the trans community, and I wrote it down, is the unknown is scary because it's unfamiliar. What would happen to me if I entered unknown territory outside of my comfort zone? I fear things that I don't know or understand. So, Lucca, stay comfortable and safe.
Yeah.
And I know that belief isn't truly mine. I was exposed to someone else's fear and judgment, and it got on me. But just when I spoke that language out a few years back, I was like, oh my gosh, no wonder. Like, that was a belief that was ruling my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much, in our world, we are community members, right? Like Lucca, you said, our need to be ourselves and to be in community is a big human need. So of course we are hearing and learning things all the time from all sorts of sources. And a lot of times they just, like you said, they just stick to us, and we're not even aware that that's something that we've absorbed or taken on. So the ability to sort of pay attention to those things and identify them, give some language to them, and say, like, okay, that may be where I've been, that may be what I've heard. I'm going to make a different choice right now, is what step 3 is, which is make a new choice. Sounds so simple, right? So one of the ways I want to talk about, or an example would be like, what does it sound like to make a new choice. So when I was like, the world is hard for the queer community. People will judge you. I can convert that into, I choose to release those ideas. The world is hard and we can work to make it better, right? Like just sort of finding a different way of taking that fear or that idea and making a positive choice around it so that it's a true choice and not just a reaction or an autopilot. So some examples, I choose to be an actionable ally to the LGBTQIA plus community. I choose to build a bridge of love to my LGBTQIA plus brothers, sisters, and non-binary community. I choose to release biases and judgments and create space for more love, acceptance, curiosity, possibility. Make a new choice and practice it, right? Like, so there's no magic wands. You didn't, I don't know. I wasn't provided with a magic wand when I when I started this journey. It takes practice. And that's why these actionable things that we can write down and keep in our pockets and remind ourselves, these 5 things that you can count on, you have one, most people have 5 fingers, not all, most. 5 simple things that we can keep in our pocket to remind ourselves, how can we be in action for our communities?
Yeah, Josie, and I just love, like, a new choice can be so simple. We can make thousands of choices a day. And the new choice that I made with my example is I want to belong. I want to be fully seen. So if it's going to take me doing these intentional actions to fully see a transhuman and call them by these pronouns and listen and not speak, to lead through listening. Like, if it takes me learning on my own and not just going to one of my trans friends and say, tell me it all, there's so many resources. So those are some of the new choices that I've made and continue to make daily, because judgment and fear still creep in, don't got that magic wand.
Which dovetails perfectly into step 4. So we're going to make these choices. We're going to have to make these choices over and over and over and over. It would be lovely. It would be naive, but it would be lovely to think magically the world is going to change and that we're not going to get into reaction. I'm not going to worry about anything any longer. Love will find a way. And in a lot of ways, while that's true, it's a choice of love that has to get us there. So what we're talking about is called an allyship insurance plan, which is, so when these things come up, because they're going to come up, and you get fearful or you get judgy or you get whatever you're getting, having a plan in place. So whether that is ways to restore, oh, great. Awesome. Allyship insurance toolbox. Love the slide. So what are some of the ways that when you are in a space where you're in reaction, that you can shake out of it and that you can remind yourself, these things will help me shift? For me, movement is a big one, either physically changing a location or moving my body, just kind of literally shake it off, right? Sometimes that helps me with some of the feelings. Water and a snack, always have the water and a snack, some ideas. But identifying, the goal here would be to say, like, what are 3 ways that I know will help me get myself back into choice? And who are 3 people that I can tell about these to, so that when they notice, a lot of times our friends and families see us in this space before we kind of even identify it. Sometimes our body knows before our mouth knows, but sometimes our partners, the people we live with, our coworkers are like, oh, she's amping up. I can see it happen. And so if you can have an insurance policy, 3 tasks or 3 ways to shake out of reaction, and 3 people you can share that with that have the sort of, I call them, the refrigerator rights, like they have access to say like, I'm asking you to call me on this. I'm asking you that when you see me behaving this way, that you please remind me one of these three things. Say, Josie, go take a nap. Or Josie, let's take a walk. Seems like you need to shake up some things. Let's go out and take a walk. Or I don't know, can't believe I've just totally lost my train of thought now. What else do I do?
Josie, I'll continue with mine.
Call on Lucca. What are yours?
Like mine, totally sunbathing. If I ever feel myself below the line of choice in reaction, judgment, or worry, go out, sunbathe. I longboard, move your body in a way that feels authentic. Music. I have a playlist on Spotify that's an authenticity playlist, that it's these songs that just make me feel like myself, that make me feel damn good. Another one that I love is a take two. There's many times that I've been in a conversation with my mom and a friend, and I find myself, oh my gosh, I'm totally like talking from a voice of worry. Can I do a take two and have that conversation? Josie, can you explain a little more about I am, you are, and that loving boundary?
I do. And I want to do a time check. We've got like about 15, 17 minutes left, something like that. And I realize that we're running a little behind. Real quick, I want to talk about the principle of I am, you are, which is loving boundaries. People get all sort of worked up that boundaries sound like a bad thing, but really a boundary is the most loving thing you can do to be in relationship with someone. It really just means clarity around me and where I am and where, and you as a full separate person, you have your needs and perspectives and your opportunities and choices to make. Sometimes as a mama, I got I am all mixed up with my kiddos, right? Like they somehow were a reflection on me. I don't know what that's about, where that came from, but anyhow, we're releasing that one. They are their own individual people. And it's not my responsibility to make them be a certain thing or for them to expect me to be a certain thing. So, and it's a loving thing. It's not like I am me and you are something else. It's not a push away. It really is a respectful thing that if you can create and respect someone as a whole entity who is deserving and capable of making choices that work for them, that don't have to make sense or look right to me, and vice versa. That's a little bit about the I am, you are. Is that covering what you need?
Josie, yeah, I could listen to you for hours.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we've only got about 16 more minutes left. And I really think it would be fun. So that, did we get to 5? Ally in action.
Yeah, and I'll go through 5 really quick here, and then Josie, I'll pass it with you. So 5 is now being an ally in action. You just created that. You first started with, okay, I have this awareness. I'm in reaction. I need to release it. I want to make a new choice. Number 2, the third one is create your 3x3 plan. What are 3 restoration actions to get me out of the reaction? And who are 3 people that love me for me and that can lovingly remind me, hey, you're in judgment. Are you in judgment right now? Are you in worry? The 5th is being an ally in action. So you showing up today is allyship. What I'm going to share right now are many different ways you can show up. I want everyone on this call to identify at least one that you're committed to doing moving forward. One example, learn what to do when people come out to you. Love first, ask questions later. Embrace. Hug someone, like just a simple hug, the more I learn about you, the more I love you. Another one, understand unfamiliar concepts for yourself, which is what we're doing here today. We're going to send out a resource document that talks about amazing LGBTQIA+ organizations PFLAG, GLAD, the Trevor Project. Third, make a commitment to learning more about aspects, challenges, and history of the LGBTQIA+ community. We're in Pride Month right now. If you are unsure why this month is Pride Month, go look it up online. Watch a documentary. This is an amazing documentary on Netflix. I have the title right here. It's called The Life and Death of Marsha P. Johnson. Consume diverse media. There's an awesome documentary called Disclosure on Netflix that talks about trans humans and how they were portrayed in media. Ask people that are part of the LGBTQIA+ community, like, what makes you feel most seen and safe, especially if you have a queer child or somebody that you're just in direct contact with. Like, ask them, how do you feel most accepted? And they may know an answer now, or they may not, and let both be okay. And it's really getting comfortable being uncomfortable. So these are a few ways in the resource document. I'm going to share a lot more for you. Another is attend a Pride event. I'm going to share this really quick, Josie, and then I'm going to pass it on. One of my friends who shows up as a straight woman messaged me on Instagram and was like, hey, I didn't want to go to a Pride event because I felt like I was stepping on the toes of the queer community if I showed up as a straight woman. And she's like, you know, should I or should I not go? And I said, you know what? I know, like, I was just at Fresno Pride. I grew up in the area. This is my first Fresno Pride. I walked in the parade with PFLAG, and I saw friends and that I grew up with. I saw them like cheering me on in the audience, and I know they are straight, and just seeing them being such an ally, showing up in love, like, that felt so good for this little inner child in here. So just showing up to a Pride festival or a parade, no matter your human experience, with love at the forefront and listening with both ears open.
Excellent. Love that. All right. So I'm curious, is there someone here? I know we'll take maybe one or two shares that would like to walk through sort of the steps, or was there, as I was talking through them, is there somebody who had an experience where they could identify, you know, a time that they were in reaction, or that they were aware that they were in a below the line kind of autopilot mode? Any volunteers to walk through this?
Yeah, Josie, I would say when my son came out, and I did exactly kind of like what you spoke about, you know, it was that immediate, I'm fearful for you, that projecting of my own fears. You know, I was, of course, super accepting, but had that inner dialogue in my mind going and just thinking, oh my gosh, now your life is going to be so hard. And when you said that, I didn't even think that I was just perpetuating this fear for him that he probably already had. And I just made, you know, intensified that more. And of course, that's been years. So since then, we've come a long way. But yeah.
So you say you could identify like what was, so you said your incorrect belief was like that life will be harder for you, and then that story you were perpetuating.
Yeah.
What were some of the ways, or what was the different choice that you made that helped you sort of release that, or make a different approach to it?
I just think over time, realizing, you know what, you're you, and he is resilient. So in living his own truth and experience, I mean, he's proven everyone wrong time after time, right? And just standing behind him in that journey and knowing, I think just knowing, and he knows, always having his back, we're going to be there, right, wrong, or whatever that is. So, and I knew that when he came out, but it was that immediate, like, it's just the reaction. Right. That reaction is so fast.
I love that, the change from it's going to be hard and I'm afraid for you to you are resilient and we got your back. Like, that is so simple, but yet so profound in a big way. So that's really awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, Nicolette, I just like humans are so resilient, especially queer humans. So to just like say that aloud, like the times my mom has told me, Lucca, you are resilient. Like it means so much from somebody that literally created you. So Nicolette, thanks for just sharing that new choice. Like you are resilient. That damn, I'm taking that.
Right. Is there anyone, I'm just curious, is there someone who's like, I don't get this. I don't know how to change an incorrect belief. Is there someone who could maybe feel it? And if there's not, that's awesome. But if there's somebody out there who's like, yeah, I don't get what you're talking about, and you want to walk through it together, anyone? Bueller?
I'll say something.
Thank you.
You know, it's funny, or it's interesting, because I know Lucca you had your growth process and you went through all your steps, but you know, as a parent, and Josie, you probably know, it's a process for us too, and a growing process. And so I really saw that myself, it had to be a paradigm shift. I had to do some shifting of my beliefs and my fears, and then embracing our future, because it's going to look a little different, and that's cool. That is amazing. And I wouldn't have Lucca any other way, but I think that a shift, and that we do go through a process in anything in life. It's a process.
What was the thing that you think helped keep you making that shift? Or was it something that you came back to, or a reminder for yourself?
That I would always be in Lucca's corner. I will always be in his corner, no matter what. So
that's awesome.
So knowing from that place right there, then I'm going to work towards showing that.
Right.
Or showing him. So
were there tools that you had, or ways that you just reminded yourself, or when you had the shift, you knew you were just
no,
like,
I totally
just want to be in this corner.
So Lucca and I had a conversation, and I remember asking him, well, tell me about it, because you know, you're going to have to do that on your own. And it's almost like the roles shifted. So he was the parent to tell me, you do the research. You can't put all that on me. And I'm like, damn, I wanted to be in your corner, but I thought you were going to help me out. But you know, it was good, because it really made me search out like PFLAG and start listening to podcasts about the LGBTQI community, and learning their stories, and then comparing it to our story, and that we all have stories.
Right.
But I just massively just dove in to start learning, and PFLAG was such a resource for, you know, it's amazing. And it was funny too, because I'll just say this real quick. So one of the things I read, it's when and I felt this way at first, but I don't feel this way anymore. When your child comes out of the closet, sometimes a parent goes in the closet.
Oh, yeah.
And because now you're starting to have to, okay, well, how am I going to reframe things in my mind, and then in the way I live? But it was kind of a funny thing, but I got it. But yeah, just there's so many resources, and this is just amazing that what you guys are doing. And I'm so proud of you, Lucca. I'm so proud of what you're doing. I mean, God, you are just really spearheading a shift in what's going on right now. And Josie, thanks for being in LA and for stepping in as take two coming out of my kid's story.
Happy to do it. I think Denise, what you shared is really so beautiful and so simple, and it just really, it's so nice to have that vulnerability that, you know, as parents, we're not going to get it right, but we're trying. And so thank you for sharing that part, and for being here with us. All right, I'm really mindful. We got 6 minutes, Lucca.
Okay, Mom, I love you so much. Like, I want to say one last thing there from what my mom said when she first found out I was gay. I just remember something being like, oh, I just hope you don't bring somebody home that's like so feminine. And there were just a few, just now looking, it was totally from reaction. So 8 years ago from that to 8 years in the future, her choosing to come to Tampa Pride to volunteer with me and watch me speak and be on this call, like growth can happen. I never in a million years would have imagined that I would talk about these things so out loud with my mom. And I know that's not everyone's experience. And like, yeah, mom, I freaking love you, girl. Like, yeah, I'm grateful for you. So let's, Chris, you had your hand up. Yes, share. Josie, we have time.
Yes.
We have time.
No, I just wanted to say, like, I think Josie's question around like the steps here, and being, a leader in a store manager where I'm working in I work with Starbucks, which is a very inclusive company, but still sometimes it's hard to be the ally that I know like my team needs me to be, or another partner, another store manager needs me to be. And, I want to be able to show up in the best way and show up in the most supportive way, so that, because I do work for a company that people see and say, oh, this is a company that is inclusive. And that's the expectation that our employees have, is that we're going to be inclusive to them, that we're going to show up for them when they need it, and in the ways that they need it. But to be the leader of that and have to be able to show that, hey, yes, like this, I know how to do that. Sometimes that is like challenging, and sometimes it is like it's like I don't know, what am I supposed to say to you right now?
What am I
How
supposed to do?
that? Yeah.
Well, I think if I could share one more thing here, the thing I know is that there is no one right way to do it, but that by trying and asking questions and being willing to is the best that any of us can offer. So there is no one way to do it. You don't need a permission slip. If you do, I'll write you one here. You can have a permission slip. And giving yourself grace and giving other people grace that you're going to get it wrong. You're going to step on a toe. It's okay. If it comes from a place of like unawareness and you didn't know, but you were really trying your best, give yourself some grace with that. Like I said, I have not intentionally meant to misgender my child. And occasionally it still happens, but I'm like, I know this, why? And I know that it's not about me. It's about making a quick apology. I'm sorry, correct it. We'll do a take 2 and let me listen. What would be most helpful to you? How can I best serve you as an ally? What do you want to see? And there's going to be a different answer. Every person's going to have a different answer for that. So just being open to it, I think, is really a great first step. And being gentle with yourself. It's okay if you don't hit it out of the park the first time. Just keep practicing.
Yeah. And Chris, just to know that like the leader of all those humans is taking time out of their day to come to this call to learn, like, gosh, who on this call would like love to know that their manager or boss or leader was like coming to these calls to just support them, So, oh, Chris, thanks for sharing that. Gosh, I can't believe it's 5:28 or 8:28 where you are. This time has been so special with you all. Thank you. Thank you. I want to say for myself, and I'm just saying thank you for all the LGBTQIA plus humans in your life that you are going to impact with your intentionality. Sometime over the next 3 days before Friday, I want you to journal about like, why are you proud of yourself for taking time to come to this call? Set some time to appreciate yourself. Next steps could be to reflect on this work, maybe get some little post-it notes or flashcards like this, write them out. Share some of the things you learned with a friend. By Friday, I'll send this recording out along with a resource document of podcasts, books, handouts, just a lot of things that have supported Josie and I. There's so many resources out there, so it's going to be more the things that have helped us the most. And just know that Josie and I are both here to support you. Josie does a lot of personal one-on-one coaching, so please reach out. Josie, can you put your email in the chat?
I will do that.
And I lead this work for school districts, for universities, for organizations, just really committed to supporting our kiddos. So just please, like, if you have any questions at all, reach out. I'm going to share this slide that has like some contact information for Josie and myself.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so Josie, yeah, there it is. I forgot that I had this slide. So feel free to take a photo of that or write it down.
Or it'll be in the email too, right? Like, we'll
And
email
yeah,
that out.
it'll be in the email. And yeah, just I have so much gratitude in my heart, and just thank you for making this possible. I learned a lot today as well.
Yes. Thank you all. I appreciate.
Thank you too, and everyone. This is amazing.
Yeah. You could
Thank you,
have chosen to
Lucca.
be in a lot of different places. So thank you.
Yes, thank you all. Let's
And
come
real
off
quick,
mute.
and we did a fundraiser, right? So we're going to support some really great organizations. So thank you for A, being open to be here, and then B, the part of the fee will be a fundraiser for two really amazing organizations, the Ali Forney Center, and is it Fresno?
Yeah, Fresno State.
Fresno State.
Peter, what's the official name? Fresno State Alumnex and Allies Club, right?
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate that very much. And I see some of my colleagues on the call too. So Ashley and Dean Chapman. And I saw someone else, but everyone keeps moving. So thank you very, very much.
Hi, Peter. Love you.
Yes, Denise.
Oh, all right. Well, our time is done. Thank you so much. Don't be strangers. A lot of you have my number on Instagram, email. Thanks again, and sending kisses and love.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for being an ally.
Yeah.
Go build a bridge.
Yes.
Brick by brick. Thank you all.
Thank you, Josie. Love you.
Love you too.
Oh, bye, Misty. Bye, April. Bye, Jack.
Bye, Lucca.
Thank you for being part of this.
Yeah, of course.
Lucca, thank you so much.
Thank you. We loved it.
April, introduce us to your full everyone that's here.
So my husband is here and our son Camden.
Brian.
Thank you.
And we just got to enjoy all the conversation. It helps us, where we're coming from and where we'll be headed.
Awesome. Anything I can do to help, reach out.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, so nice to meet you all. I'm so glad we ran into each other at the coffee shop.
I know. Thank you. It was
that's
meant to
amazing.
be. It was meant to be.
So meant to be. See you three. And your doggy?
Yes. Our fur dog.
Another ally.
Yes. Thank you, though. We appreciate it. We enjoyed it.
Okay, good. See you all.
Bye.